Hi everyone, I hope that you're doing amazing wherever you are in the world. My name is Shikha and I welcome you to my channel. As always, I'm so grateful that you're listening, subscribing, and commenting. I really appreciate the support. In this one, I wanted to speak to you about a question someone asked me recently. I thought at first that it was a joke, but then I started thinking about it a little bit more and I was like, this is an interesting idea. Let me do a video upon it. And he said something like, what can you do a video on what you do when people ask you questions, when private questions that are none of their business? And as a person on social media and as a person on YouTube and as a person with a little bit of a following, not a lot obviously, but a little bit of a following, I do get a lot of random questions from people. Of course, I mean, people are curious. If they start watching my videos and they've watched me for a while, after a while, they're like, what does this person do? Like, how is she living her life? Like, what is she doing with her days? Does she do videos all day long? Or does she just sit in this room and do yoga all day long? Why is the mat on the ground? Why is the mirror like that? So I get a lot of random questions. Particularly about my room, and I'm actually really fascinated that people actually are looking at the room instead of looking at me. Look at me, not at the room. No, I'm just kidding. But of course, people get curious. We're curious beings, especially INFJs are like extremely curious. We want to know the answers to everything. But a lot of people ask me questions, and they'll ask me questions sometimes that are of a private nature. And I think to myself, actually, I'm not comfortable answering that question, and I don't think I want to, right? um, so the problem with INFJs, or problem with me in general, is that I have a tendency to just say what's on my mind. And I know a lot of INFJs have this problem as well, where we think that we're being straightforward, but we're actually being rude, right? And so there's a fine balance between the two, for sure, for sure. And for me in particular, it's very important to notice that because I don't think sometimes, and I'll just say whatever comes into my mind, I'll just blurt it out. And I do that a lot when I'm answering these questions, and I'm like, instead of being like, F off, mind your own business, how dare you ask me this question, which is like something that sometimes that comes up in my head, and I should just say that. And I have to really temper myself and control myself, like, no, don't say that. The person didn't mean any harm. They were just asking a question. They're being curious. You should reward their curiosity and reward them for being straightforward and asking you the question instead of being mean to them. Be nice about it. Tell them the answer if you want to, or if you don't want to, tell them that you don't want to tell them the answer, right? I mean, be nice about it. And that's one of the things that I really wanted to share with you because that's something that's coming up for me a lot is that there are two ways in which to answer every question that comes up to you. There are people who can come up to you and ask you a billion different questions, and instead of being completely rude about it, you can be nice about it, right? Of course, like those are the two options. You're probably thinking, is she stupid? Yeah, of course I know this. The problem is that we don't know this, in fact. We know it in our heads, and like in theory we know it, but when it actually comes to practice, our inclination for some reason is to be straightforward in a rude manner. Because we're not thinking straight. And for us, being straightforward for some reason kind of equates to being rude somehow. I don't know why. But I've spoken to a couple of INFJs about this, and both of them both said to me that, yeah, no, when I'm being straightforward, I'm basically just saying what's on my mind, and I don't temper it. I don't make it sound nice or anything. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I'm just going to say what's on my mind. Unfortunately, as I said, a lot of times people are sensitive, and unfortunately, we live in a world where everyone gets offended very easily. And perhaps you as an INFJ might not, but also I feel like we're hypersensitive, so we might. But in general, if we want people to treat us with care, and if we want people to treat us with kid gloves, then I think it is only right that we treat other people with kid gloves as well. It's only right that we treat other people nicely. And if we're going to say something to them, yes, you can be straightforward, but you can be nice about it, right? I mean, that's an option, right? It's definitely an option. Unfortunately, when we are talking to people and we're answering questions, we do end up being rude many times. And I've noticed this for myself. That's the reason I'm saying this, is because I really try to control myself. And even then, there'll be moments when I'll be straightforward and I'm like, oh shit, that sounded rude. And in my head, I'm thinking, I should have said it a different way, right? So I'm really trying for myself. This is actually perhaps more an advice for myself than for you guys. But I'm really trying to really stop myself, take a deep breath, pause, and then think about the best way to be straightforward in a nice manner. Yeah. Only because a lot of relationships a lot of my relationships have broken apart because I said something in a straightforward manner. I was being rude, but I didn't mean to be rude. I just wanted to let them know what I thought about the subject matter. And I'm going through a lot of this right now because difficult conversations are coming up over and over again, especially with a lot of the things that are going on in the world. And I'm noticing that a lot of individuals in my life are not what I thought they were. They either don't support the BLM movement or they have opinions about it. And I'm thinking, whoa, 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 what's going on here? Or about the trans movement or about all of these different things. And I'm like, oh my God, I thought you weren't homophobic. And what are you doing in my life, right? Or things like that. And so instead of being rude about it, which is my first inclination to be like, all right, just be straightforward and rude. You're an idiot. Get away from me, which is usually what I want to say. I have to be like, all right, temper yourself, calm down, take a deep breath, pause, and think about saying it in a way where it's not rude. Why do you have to be rude? What's the point? Like, what is the point of, if you're going to be straightforward, it's better to do it in a nice way. And I'm not saying I always manage to do that. Sometimes they'll say something to me and instantaneously, as if it's like on the tip of my tongue, it just comes out and that's very rude. And I'm thinking to myself, oh shoot, I should not have said that. Thankfully, a lot of people around me know that I have this tongue and they know that I'm a little bit rude and they know that I have a little bit of a hard time controlling my tongue. So they are used to it. Doesn't necessarily mean that's a good thing, but they are used to it. And so they're fine with it. But I don't want it to be a thing where I'm always surrounded by people who are fine with it. I don't want to be the kind of person who's always saying rude things to people and they're just going along with it because that's the kind of person I am. I don't want them to be accommodating to me. I want to accommodate them. I want to be the kind of person who is going halfway. I don't want them to always be taking the step forward. And so also, strangers are going to come into my life and they won't know that I'm a straightforward, rude individual, and I'm going to say something and they're going to think, oh my God, she's so rude. I don't want to be friends with her. And then I might lose a friendship that might turn out to be the best thing in the world, right? And so really, like, one of the essential things I think as an INFJ that we need to learn is that it's not bad. It's not a bad thing that we're a straightforward individual. I love my straightforward nature. I absolutely love it. It's like one of my things. I'm grateful for it. I admire it in myself, right? I admire it in other INFJs as well and in other people. But my thing with it, again, is to be calm about it, not to be rude about it, not to be angry about it, to be straightforward in a calm, peaceful manner. And that's absolutely possible because I've seen other people do it. And I'm always really impressed when they do it because in my inclination, obviously, is to be rude about it. And I think to myself, why? Why does it have to be a rude thing? Why can't it just be a nice thing? I'm sorry, but you're an idiot is not the way that I want to speak to people, right? That's not how I want to say things to people. I want to create arguments, but in a nice way. I want to have discussions, but in a peaceful manner. I don't want to be jumping down people's throat in a negative fashion. I just don't think that's the right way to build relationships or to be a human being on this planet. I notice that a lot of people are doing that right now. And I just don't think that's the way to do it. I'd rather be a pacifist. I'd rather be a peaceful person, not only in my actions, but also in my words, right? And I feel like INFJs can be very peaceful in our actions, very peaceful in our thoughts, but when we speak words, when we actually are talking to people, when we're having conversations with people, we can be a belligerent person. And I'm saying this about myself more so than anyone else, and I don't want to be that belligerent, rude individual anymore, right? I hope I've said this enough times that it makes sense. And so, as I said, I'm really trying as much as possible for me, whenever I have a conversation with people, not to blurt out the first thing that comes into my head, because that's usually the rudest, most straightforward thing I can say, right? And as I said, I love being straightforward, but I want to temper it a bit, just a little bit. And so I don't blurt out the first thing that comes into my head, mostly, and I will take a little breath, a little pause, and I'll be like, all right, I want to say this straightforward thing. Good. Now, how are you going to say it in a way that's actually nice and not going to come across as something rude that's going to break up your relationship or going to break that person's self-esteem down or is going to make them cry, because I have made many people cry in the past and I'm like, what am I doing? I'm not that kind of person. I don't want to be that kind of person, right? And so that's what I really ask you to do as well as an INFJ. I'm sure a lot of you are not in the same boat as me. I'm sure you're much more peaceful and much more nicer than I am. I do have a problem with this. But if you have the same problem as me, if you have a problem with rudeness in being straightforward, then I do recommend that you take that pause. Take a little bit of a breath. Don't blurt out the first thing that comes into your head. It's not the right thing to say. extremely rude, and it's going to break apart your relationships. And it's very important that we don't do that to people. Why? What's the point, right? I mean, what if you can say something nicely? Why say it rudely, right? If you have an option, then the option to be nice is better than the option to be rude. I believe, at least. Unless that person is really irking you and they're being an idiot and they're being belligerent, then of course, yeah, be belligerent. That's awesome. Give them what they're giving you. But if they're being nice, I think the best thing to do is to be nice as well. I think so, right? I'd love to hear your opinions on this. Are you in the same camp as me, or are you guys nice about being straightforward? I'd love to hear your opinions on the subject. If you have any questions about it, comment below and I shall do a follow-up video. But I think I've been pretty straightforward with this, although I don't think I've been rude. But you can tell me that if I have. Again, thank you so much for being on my channel. I really appreciate your support and all of the interesting questions you've been sending my way. Please keep them coming. I shall see you the next time around. Bye for now.